My name is Elon Datt, and I'm the founder and CEO of Tapt by Hatch. Um, and yeah, we are a digital business card business that allows you to tap your card on someone's phone to pass across your contact information.
Elon, that's great. Thanks so much for finding time. Join us today on Ivy Podcast. Super excited to talk to you. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you come from, career growth, and how did you end up here?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to be born into a family of immigrants, which is pretty. I think it's almost unspoken what the immigrant mentality is like. So my parents, I'm originally born in Australia, which is where I live right now, but my parents were born in South Africa, and I think what that taught me from a very young age was just like ridiculously hard work, like just working all day, every day. And I watched my parents do it for a very long time, and I watched them grow both their successful careers. My dad in insurance and my mum in accounting, and I think that kind of just gave me the foundation to go out into the open and do what I wanted to do. I finished school back in 2016. I spent 2 years in the military. I was a paratrooper. Yeah, that was for me. What I felt towards the end of my schooling was that because my parents had built up successful careers, I almost felt a little bit entitled. I went to a private school, and I felt that a lot of what I had was given to me, and I felt that going to the military would ground me a little bit more. It would, give me a bit more of a perspective on life. And yeah, so I finished the military, and when I finished, I jumped. As soon as I finished, I've always been relatively entrepreneurial. I had many businesses throughout high school, and I've always wanted to, I've always wanted to have a big business and manage people. It's something I love doing. And yeah, when I came back from the army, I realized that in order to do that, you have to be, at least in 2020 and back in, I think it was the end of 2018, you got to be digitally literate. I like to use that phrase. You got to understand how everything works online. And yeah, so pretty much from there, I started a web development agency. It was me and a friend of mine. We had the same ideas, and we were driven in the same way. And that kind of led to us just building websites for some big and some small companies. And that kind of was my entry into the digital space. And I think after about a year of that, we realized that it's just not for us. I think web development is incredibly tedious. And although we learned so much, I'd say that the websites that we were building weren't good enough to really make a huge business out of it. But what it did teach us, obviously, was how to work around digital platforms, and that kind of led into Tapt. We came across this concept where you could tap a card on someone's phone to open up your Instagram profile or SoundCloud for low-level record producers, and we instantly saw opportunity. As soon as we saw it, we thought, wow, that's an awesome piece of technology. But we didn't believe that Instagram and SoundCloud was really the market for it. So yeah, we pretty much looked for a repurpose of that, and we landed on the business card, just because the business card market. I think there's this perception that the business card market is dying. I think people think that people are using less business cards. And it's there's merit behind it for sure. I think because we're doing more of this online meeting, people already have details. But at the end of the day, particularly for the large corporates, I think everyone has to have a business card, just in case. They always need to be carrying something around.
Sure, and then just to
And
add on that, how kind of you and I got connected, because in our industry, we're in information technology, software development, and also a big part of our business is IT staffing. So we partner a lot with large organizations to help find very niche talent. So attending conferences, networking events. A lot of that is, is at the core of the business development. And with the
Exactly.
pandemic and everything, we were doing a lot of research in terms of alternative ways to, exchange information. And the business card thing is, it's, still exists, but to a certain extent you need some innovative ways to exchange information, especially contact info. So I was looking
Yeah.
at that, and then kind of your service came about, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And then my wife showed me this Instagram thing. I think it was one of your competitors, I believe. And it's like, you basically, just for our listeners, for those who are listening and not on the video, it's basically, it's like a credit card looking card. It's not the paper version, and it allows you to tap your smartphone just like a QR code or NFC, and this pop-up window comes up, and it essentially allows you to save that contact information right into your phone, which is, I think that's pretty genius. I think that's really cool, very innovative, especially for the current times where people avoid touching each other, avoid the handshakes, exchanging any physical,
Exactly.
products. So I thought that was pretty cool. So a little bit of a background story on how we got connected for our listeners. And so tell me a little bit more about the kind of the technology you guys are using. How did that get started, and where do you see this is going for you?
Yeah, so we use NFC technology, um, and the technology's actually been around for a very long time. But what's happened in the market is that now all the smartphone providers, Samsung, Android, Apple, they're now offering this background reading NFC capabilities. So that's the ability for the card to react with the phone without any app installed.
So
Um,
Elon,
and
just for our
yeah,
listeners, for not the tech savvy group that we have, give
yeah,
us the layman's terms difference between the NFC near field communication and the QR code reader. If you are explaining this to your grandma, how would you describe
yeah,
that?
yeah. So they're very similar. They're very similar. In short, pretty much with a QR code, you'd scan the QR code, whereas NFC is more the tap. So similar to like how you would go and buy a coffee.
Mhm.
If you were to use, I don't know, if you use Apple Pay on your phone, or if you're just using a credit card and you tap the card on someone's on the machine, or whatever you need to do. NFC works pretty much the exact same way. It's pretty much the transferal of information via tap. Whereas with the QR code, it's more so with a scan. Um, but yeah, if that's how at least I explain it to my grandma.
Okay, that's good. You did a good job. So I think the grandparent population of our audience will be able to understand that. So that's great. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah,
So basically, you use your card, you tap it against your connection, your prospect, or the person you're interacting with on your
yeah.
phone. Your information pops up on their smartphone, and that gives them what?
That gives them all their contact details. So kind of, and I'll go into that into a little bit more detail. I think kind of what an unspoken feature of Tapt is that if you were to give someone a normal business card, the best case scenario for you is that they would write down your number, like they'd put your number in their phone and save your name.
Mhm.
But with Tapt, what you can do is you can save all different types of contact variables. So the most important one I would say is actually a profile picture. So when right now you can save, a headshot of yourself to your contact, and what that means is that if I were to call you, John, you know, my face is going to come up on your phone, so you're immediately going to be able to resonate with exactly who's calling, which is huge. But as well as that, we're also talking. You're going to get the office number, you're going to get your email address, you're going to get your office address. You've got all your social links, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. So really, if this person wants to contact you, there's just so many different ways, which is really huge.
That's really cool. I love that concept. And I think, if I was to think about what problem are you solving with this particular product, it's I'm assuming that the need for that came about because of the pandemic. Because of the need to be able to exchange information without much contact, without the exchange of the physical product. Is that more or less at the core of that, or is there underlying premise?
Yeah, so we actually started before COVID.
Okay.
We were in practice before COVID even came about. I think the main problem that we're trying to solve, Obviously, yes, there's contact-free benefits, but the main problem we're trying to solve is that we don't want people to be worrying about business cards ever again. Um, Essentially. So right now, people, when they go to meetings, they always need to carry around 3, 4 business cards just in case, a small stack of cardboard. And I think what that leads into is that we want people to stop buying boxes of 250, 500 business cards for them to just be thrown away. People aren't keeping your business card. Eventually, that card is going to be thrown in the bin. And particularly at the end of last year, what at least Australia saw is we saw, these crazy bushfires that pretty much, destroyed a lot of the Australian outback. It was quite crazy. So I think when we were starting back then, we saw it more from, an eco-friendly perspective. That this is for at least an opportunity for companies to show that, they are doing their part for the environment, and if they do have a better alternative to printing 500 business cards, they've now got one. So yes, of course, as well though, now obviously with COVID coming around, now it's a contact-free solution. I can go and tap my card on your phone. There's no physical contact. But yeah, I think COVID for us was so weird. It was because for us, like on one hand, we've got the contact-free benefit where, people now can exchange details without touching each other. But on the other hand, people just haven't been going to business meetings.
Right.
So there's been no networking events. There's been people are all working from home. So it's been super, super interesting, a bit of a roller coaster. But at the end of the day, at least in Australia, as it seems like we're coming out of COVID, we're pretty stoked with the year that we've had. And yeah, we just think the next year it's just gonna keep building and growing.
Well, just like everybody else, right? We just want to put that 2020 all behind us and focus on, the rebound and really kind of taking the economy where it used to be, at least from a growth perspective.
Yeah.
I got a question for you from a standpoint of, the different trends or ideas that excite you, or the different trends that you observe, or what's next.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that. Whether that's for your current business, or what are some of the ideas that you're super pumped about that you're looking, to explore further? What is that?
Yeah.
What industry, technology? I guess share that with us.
I think it's a great question. I think what excites me most, and particularly, particularly in 2021, the next 5 to 10 years, is what the face-to-face interaction is going to be like. I think right now with LinkedIn and all these social platforms, and I'm sure you'd experience this, and many of your audiences would experience this, is LinkedIn now we just get bombarded with messages. Everyone's trying to sell you something.
Yep.
And I think as that continues to grow and get bigger and bigger, what's going to happen is that the face-to-face interaction is going to just become way more valuable. And so it's about taking that face-to-face interaction and turning it into a sale, and how that's going to kind of come about. Now, of course, we've got CRM systems like Salesforce and things like that. But I think that there can be a system that's more personalized to someone that you meet directly on the street. And I think that's where, both Tapt is going to move more towards, but also just generally, that's definitely, an industry that I'm watching very, very closely. It's how to take that meeting on the street and turning it into a sale.
Right, absolutely. No, that's very interesting, and I agree with you in terms of, even with pandemic going down, and that's the shift, from a standpoint, just the overall dynamic, how people interact, how people do business, how people network. It's definitely changing. It's definitely only going to continue to
100%.
evolve. So products
Yeah.
like this, they definitely make sense. From innovation standpoint, what kind of, for you to innovate, continue to evolve your product, to make it better, to at the end of the day, to diversify, what strategies or initiatives that help you kind of consistently come up with innovative ways to solve problems? How do you approach a particular situation, or how do you even take your current business, your current problem, or the product that you guys are building, and say, this is where we're going, this is the next way for us, this is our innovation?
Yeah, we just listen, to be to be honest with you. I think what we do very, very well at Tapt is we listen to every single review. Every single person that we have, we try to create a personal interaction with all of our clients, but we'll often ask them, like, what do you think is going to make this product better for you guys? And I think that really helps us foster, that innovation and taking Tapt to the next level, because now we've got a list of things that we know that our clients want, and it's just about actualizing those things. And I think, using, UI, UX designers and bringing everyone together, I think that's really where our innovation comes from. It's just really listening to our client base, hearing what they want and making that happen for them. So yeah, that's pretty much how we work.
Right. No, I love that. Seems so simple yet oftentimes overlooked. That customer obsession, for all of my businesses that we're growing, that's number one as well. At the end of the day, it's, not only trying to beta test and run all kinds of pilots and, feedback sessions, listening to your customer, number one. I think it's, one of the greatest sources for inspiration, for innovation, and new ways to make your product better. So that's pretty
Yeah.
exciting. When we talk about, surrounding yourself with winners, so building a team, an A team around you, for you as the founder and CEO of your company, I've been there. I'm very entrepreneurial. I know that's a 24/7 job. Even if you're not actively recruiting, you're always on the hunt for, for A players to join you. What strategies help you kind of find the best talent, attract the go-getters and like-minded folks to join your teams? What do you deploy?
Yeah.
What works for you?
Yeah, so that's actually probably an area that I'm not the best at. I think that, and it's definitely something that I've been working on, particularly in the last 6 months. I, I think in terms of recruiting, because I'm quite inexperienced in the industry, it's actually quite tough to be able to differentiate between the good and the bad. Everyone's got a cool story, everyone's got something going for them. But luckily enough, I think at Tapt, because the concept is so novel, people don't really understand it very well, and it looks really cool. We actually have a lot of opportunity come to us, thank God. But yeah, it's definitely something I think in 2021 and just generally in the next 5 years of my professional career, it's something that I want to work towards. I'm also lucky enough to be surrounded. My parents and my sister actually all have very successful businesses, and they're all, my mum's very, very experienced. She's been in the accounting industry for 20 plus years, and she does recruiting all the time. And my sister as well, she's been building this digital marketing agency, and she's built her team up now to, I think there's about 8 to 10 people just doing ads and things like that. And I think I try to take a lot from them as well. We have a lot of dinner conversations about recruiting and how to onboard the best people. And so right now, because I'm inexperienced, I'm taking a lot of advice from people that I believe have done well in that kind of, in that recruiting area, and that's kind of the actions that I'm taking now. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we grow and who comes on in the next few years.
No, for sure, and I love that. Keeping it in the family. At the end of the day, if you have those resources available to you, why not take advantage of that? Especially learning from somebody else's experience. That's
Yeah.
that's great that you have access like that. From a standpoint of kind of who do you look up to? What are the different entrepreneurs that inspire you? What are the different, like, who do you follow on Twitter? If we talk about the entrepreneur, the startup world, who are your like top three?
Gary V,
Uh-huh.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
I'm a big Gary V fan. I actually listen to Gary V for 10 minutes before I go to bed every single night. I'm a proper fanboy when it comes to Gary V. I really like his mentality. I listen to a lot of Elon Musk. I think he's a super interesting, entrepreneur. I like his. What I really like about what I really like about Elon is that he does this thing in like interviews and kind of meetings where he'll be asked like a challenging question and he'll just kind of like look away and like pause for like five seconds. Like the whole room is like silent while he's like thinking intensely, and then he'll come back, and it's just like, to me it's just amazing how someone can, because he's obviously a genius, how he needs to sometimes just like think about how he wants to answer the question and then jump back to it. But yeah, those two are really like my core. I do have a set of like advisors, that I speak to every day, that help me all the time with Tapt. People that have had big businesses or do have big businesses now, and really they're super helpful as well. So yeah, I look up to those big dogs, but at the same time, I'm also like I'm trying to. I've got advisors within the community, people that can always help me when I need.
That's great. I love that analogy of having, almost your personal board of advisors, whether that's your career advisors, whether that's personal life and whatnot, because we all have in our businesses, advisory boards and professional board of directors, but also having something on, on a personal level, somebody to reach out to, somebody to get advice. I think that's a lot of times overlooked, but yet so powerful. So that's pretty
Yeah.
exciting to hear. In terms of kind of what's next for Elon and company, where do you guys see yourself in in the near term? What are the big goals? What are the plans?
Yeah. Our next big, I would say our next big move is creating, a two-way transaction. So right now, when I take my card and I tap it on your phone, you get my contact details, but it's about creating, that dual functionality where I get yours. And I think from there, there's heaps of doors will open. But that's really what we've been working on really hard at the moment, is actualizing that and making sure that the user experience behind that is seamless. But I think that's the next big move. I'm super keen to start a podcast, which is why I was so excited to be on this podcast. I've always loved just talking to people, just generally. So yeah, I really like that idea, but also like just on an everyday basis, we kind of get quite a few ideas thrown at us, and how to kind of develop Tapt into like this big business. And I think a lot of the ideas that come to us, they're like they're those ideas that have to be massive at scale. And I think what I'm really focused on at Tapt is just making sure that we take baby steps as opposed to taking that big leap.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think if we keep taking those baby steps, eventually we will become that big monster business. But a lot of the ideas that are thrown to us is just, I would say, unrealistic for the size we are at the moment.
Right, right. No, and that's great. Keeping yourself grounded and really focusing on, the lowest hanging fruits, the what's really gonna make the immediate impact on your business and your customers. I think that's very important. At the same time, keeping your eyes open on the grand vision as well, where you going with the organization. Last but not least, what are you currently reading, or what is one book that you always recommend to others, and why is that?
Yeah, so I recommend Shoe Dog. I'm not sure if you've read it. It's by Phil Knight. It's the book about Nike and how Nike, came about. Um, yeah, I'm actually in the closing chapters of that book currently. But I just like how it goes through, the years and how it built up to, it started at Blue Ribbon and how it kind of builds up into Nike. And really early on in the book, in the first chapter, like he references seeing like the pyramid of Nike, and you obviously know that it's going to eventually come into Nike as a brand, and it's quite cool to just see that transformation.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would recommend that book to pretty much anyone.
That's great. No, I love that recommendations. Definitely on my list. Just didn't get to that just yet. For our listeners, we'll make the links and the author of the book that Elon is recommending in episode notes. Elon, where do people find you? How do they connect you? Where do they follow you?
Yeah. So you guys can find me on LinkedIn, Elon Datt, ELONDATT. Yeah, alternatively, all of our socials are tapped by Hatch, is a good contact point. I read every single message that we get on all of our platforms. So yeah, just reach out there, and we can be in contact.
That's awesome, man. Thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. I know it was a very short conversation, but powerful. I learned quite a bit. Definitely looking forward to stay in touch with you. Best of luck with the business, and perhaps we can do another episode in a year or so to see how much I've transpired.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks so much.